Hey guys, what's going on? DefKing56 here, and today I'm going to try to do something a little bit different. I just finished writing my paper for my EDS 223 class, which is called Foundations of Literacy. And I feel like the paper really didn't satisfy the amount of work that I put into it as far as content. And my mind right now is kind of reeling in the sense that I'm just thinking of all these different things, and I'm actually kind of exemplifying some of the things I talk about in my paper when you're considering a person to be literate or not. And I figured that I would ruminate it a little bit and try something different. And I'm going to dictate my paper to you guys and try to relate it to YouTube and somehow. And you guys can discuss it and talk about my thoughts, kind of relate or disagree, debate in the comments with me. This is more of an intellectual commentary. By no means am I intellectual, but I'm talking about concepts that are intellectual in their nature. So if you don't enjoy them, I would consider clicking off right now. If not, I totally would stay and listen. So I'm going to talk about my paper. I'll try to provide the transcript, aka my paper, in like a Google Doc, something on the bottom. So anyways, I'll begin. The title of my essay is called Literacy in the 21st Century in Literacy Instruction and Content Areas. Now, as this paper goes, I won't be reading my citations. I can provide my references if you'd like, but I will be reading every ellipse in quotation marks as it continues to say. Just a note. So anyways, literacy is a term that at its bare bones can be defined as the quality or state of being literate, or having knowledge or competence. In America's cultures, literacy takes on a whole new meaning. Just being able to read or write, or being well-versed in the written language is not enough. Being a quote-unquote literal person now has changed over the past 10 years, and is taking form in the education system as a growing problem. Adolescents are falling behind in their studies, and some are deemed to not be literate at all by today's standards, which are still changing, where in the past they may have been. To add, in today's society there's a distinction between being literate and being literate in one's content area and the skills associated with each. Using many different sources and journals, one can combine their definitions of literacy in order to construct their own. The Literacy Information and Communication System defines literacy and being a quote-unquote literate person as the Workforce Investment Act of 1998 defines literacy as an individual's ability to read, write, speak in English, compute and solve problems at levels of proficiency necessary to function on the job, in the family of the individual, and in society. In my opinion, this definition of literacy is strong, but also is quite broad in our sense of understanding what specific abilities and mental faculties we need to utilize in order to read, write, and speak English. One part of the definition I feel is important is the ending section, where it explains in what areas of life we need literacy. Being literate helps whilst on the job because we may need to critically think and solve problems where we may need to read important information and communicate our ideas and concerns to others. We would need to be literate in our family for that exact reason. In the family, we must converse with our relatives and connect with them on different issues one may be going through. In society, it is vital to be able to read and write so that we may correspond with each other when we aren't actually in contact with each other through various mediums. Another important point I feel that their definition addressed was that being literate is very environmentally specific. That means that depending on which environment or situation we are in, we will need to call on a plethora of skills and abilities we have mastered over time in order to perform to our full potential. Whether one is at home or in the classroom, there is a different skill set needed to be viable in the respective environments. It also is important to address what area of literacy one is using in that environment, whether it be reading, writing, or speaking. When referring to the area of literacy that is reading, the National Council of Teachers of English defines adolescent literacy as more than reading and writing. It involves purposeful social and cognitive processes. It enables functions such as analysis, synthesis, organization, and evaluation. It continues to say it fosters the expression of ideas and opinions and extends to understanding how texts are created. This definition is much more complex than the previous, as it includes different abilities that are prevalent in literate people, and how it is much more than just being able to read a piece of paper, writing a sentence, or speaking in English. One part of the definition to note is its talk of the functions that are enabled. Those being analysis, which is important because one needs to be able to observe what they are reading and use the information as a source for discussion and understanding. Synthesis, which helps one associate different ideas into concepts and methods. Organization, which allows one to arrange those concepts into an orderly fashion. And evaluation, which allows the interpretation of those ideas into what they are worth and the value it has to the situation. All these assist one in the environment-specific situations the previous definition addressed. Utilizing those intellectual skills in circumstances that demand for one's literacy can only give one an advantage in resolving any possible issues or preventing future ones from occurring. It would also be valuable to indicate that the definition of literacy may have changed based on the current trends in the American culture. It is also being molded and formed around different facets of our society. Now, with what author Gunther Kress would call the new media age, one must develop literacy in different styles in order to interpret the types of multimedia we are exposed to these days. He contends that in our society, reading opens up a whole new opportunity to interpret literacy. In the technological era of text messaging, leet speak, which is a type of replacement for the alphabet developed and used primarily on the internet, and smartphones, one may gauge their literacy completely different than the other. Kress explains in his book that there has been a shift that allows readers to determine their own principles on which to evaluate themselves, and that in the classroom there should be some freedom of choice and an embracing of what we are presented with as far as differing modes of communication and styles of literacy, however quote-unquote low they may be. It is also vital to make the distinction between being a literate person in general and being a literate person in your content area. Because I am in the science content area, the skill sets I need and the abilities I will need to frequently call on in order to understand the material are quite different than someone who is literate in their content area of history, for example. Although there are probably overlapping stages of literacy in both, the material is different, therefore the steps taken and the attempt to understand the material are quite different. Scientific literacy is defined as the knowledge and understanding of scientific concepts and processes required for personal decision-making, participation in civic and cultural affairs, and economic productivity. It also includes specific types of abilities. Some include but aren't limited to being able to, quote, describe, explain, and predict natural phenomena. It continues to say being able to read with understanding articles about articles. It continues to say scientific literacy implies that a person can identify scientific issues underlying national and local decisions. It continues to say a literate citizen should be able to evaluate the quality of scientific information. This is all from the National Science Education Standards. I feel as if these skills are extremely important in being scientifically literate, as I find myself using these skills day in and day out while in my classes and while conducting my studies at home. I feel as if literacy skills in science are unique because it is a mix between being able to read and decode words and interpreting and understanding images. The visual literacy involved is unique because some of the time there won't even be words on the images, just representations and symbols. And one would have to be able to decode, for one, what they mean, and apply, for two, what they learn to current concepts to help them make more sense. I would agree with the National Science Teachers Association in that modeling is the most effective way to facilitate the students' understanding of the vocabulary-laden text, along with my personal approach to the material, which would be hands-on, experiential-type learning. By allowing the students to make the models and experiment with the types of organisms or chemicals that you may be studying, a sort of self-discovery will take place, and they will not only have a tangible tactile representation of the concept, but they will be seeing what one may be thought of as a difficult concept through their own eyes, and feeling and manipulating it with their own hands. If I were to construct an efficient working definition of literacy and what it means to be a quote-unquote literate person in today's culture, I would say literacy is having knowledge or competence in a certain content area and being able to involve purposeful social and cognitive processes utilizing certain skills learned from repeated practice, and being able to adapt those skills to a wide variety of situations and over multiple modes and different styles of media. This definition combines what I think are the best parts of the three definitions of literacy I provided, and I feel is both broad and complex in its respective areas. As one can see, being quote-unquote literate is completely different from any other definition of literacy gathered from the previous era. Now, with the added sense of literacy in different content areas, it will be even more difficult to define someone as literate in any general sense. So there you go, guys. That was my paper. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I tried to take a more discussion sense approach to it, and I tried to add a little bit of my own style in my conclusion, where I talk about my own definition about being literate. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm actually extremely proud of it, and hopefully I will get a good grade on it once I do a little bit of grammar check, and I got to finish my reference sheet, because it's extremely annoying to do that citation shit. It's very, very, very annoying. So anyways, in conclusion, I kind of want to just relate this back to YouTube and how being literate, quote-unquote, is an extreme help to understanding the different modes of media we're exposed to every day. So, I mean, when you guys click on to one of my videos, or when you click on to someone else's video, you use different skills when you're interpreting what you're hearing and what you're seeing. And I think it's even more unique in the sense of the gameplay commentary world, because you're listening to something, for the most part, that is completely different from what you're watching. Someone could be talking about their actual life, or they could be talking about upcoming games, or their opinions on certain facets of the game, while they could be playing something completely different, or the game that they're playing has nothing to do, with what they're talking about. And I always found that mind-boggling, that someone could click on to, say, a Call of Duty video and listen to someone's discourse on, some sort of, their impressions on a trailer for the next game, or, talking about what they're doing in school today and how it was funny. And I think that's kind of cool to think about, because we're using our brains in two different ways. We're interpreting the image as on the screen, which is, you see certain people comment about, oh, that was a really cool shot you had at 3 minutes and 15 seconds into the video. But then you have the other people that are commenting on the subjects that are in the video, say, hey, I thought that trailer was pretty cool too. I checked it out, and I think the next game is going to be really good, or the next game is going to be really bad. And you have these two types of people, this dichotomy of gameplay and commentary, and you combine it into one video. It's why I kind of got into it in the first place. It's really interesting in that sense, and I feel that maybe you guys are thinking about the same things, maybe not deliberately, but when you click onto a video, you're doing what I'm doing. You're thinking about it, and you're becoming literate in in almost speech, because you're auditorily processing what I'm saying, and you're visually processing what you're seeing at the same time, but they're completely different. And the synthesis of those two is just always is really cool, especially when someone's good at what they do. So I find it also quite ironic that you're going to be watching this commentary over some gameplay, and it just makes me laugh, because I do the same thing, and I force you guys to think about these things, and I've proved myself pretty passionate for this subject so far, and hopefully it'll take me pretty far in the classroom, you know, not only in the classroom but in real life. I hope to incorporate this into my teaching somehow. So anyways, guys, I hope this provoked some sort of thought, or I don't know, stirred some sort of emotion up in you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the commentary. Things should go back to normal on my channel. I've been doing some different stuff lately, so you guys should be looking out for that. And you know, if you like this, guys, give it a thumbs up. I'm extremely proud of this video, and I'm extremely proud of my paper. I wouldn't ask you otherwise. And hopefully you can find some more enjoyment in my other commentary. So anyways, guys, this has been Duff King 56, the passionate, intellectual Duff King 56. Hopefully the gameplay commentary Duff King 56 will be back for the Dead Island LP. So I'll see you guys later. Have a great night. Peace out.